So the first scientist that he brings up is one who's very well known, although I don't think anyone truly knows much about him, because you just say was the smartest man in the world and you just kind of accept it. But Stephen Hawking, who tends to use a lot of designer type analogies and titles for his books, in his book The Grand Design, with his co-author Leonard Milanoff. There we go, Milanoff. They attempt to answer the three big questions: why is there something rather than nothing? Why do we exist? And why this particular set of laws, not some others? So, why is there something rather than nothing? Why do we exist? Is the second one, and also how come we operate with gravity and not fire and air wanting to go to the direction that they're intended to, up,
right?
And why are things pulled
and rocks
down
go down?
Rocks and water go down.
Yeah. So notice these are why questions, right? And so usually we would say that this is in the domain of philosophy, even theology, and that sort of thing. They're making these. They want to make these questions scientific questions. Right.
So Hawkins wants to say we can't depend on philosophy anymore. Philosophy is dead, along with God. According to them.
So they're killing off a lot of old age things here. God, philosophy.
A lot of white towers are coming down. Philosophy has not kept up with modern science, particularly physics. And lo and behold, Dr. Hawkins was a member of the physics community.
Yeah,
so
how about that?
Seems interesting that it's kind of like a vested interest, but that's right.
My discipline is king.
Yes. Then they talk about how physics is the be all end all, and he says here they then go on to do a lot of philosophy, because that's what it is.
That's the types of questions they're asking. It's philosophical.
Yeah, just because you want to term it under the banner of science doesn't mean you're actually talking about a banner of natural science. So Hawkins here, in giving his answer, wants to say that that these three, the big Qs, the big questions, can be answered purely within the realm of science without invoking any divine beings, which is exactly what we want if we want to be good atheists, because if we invoke a divine being, we're no longer the in atheists. Right. So he posits this M theory, and it's kind of a scary thought to have. Oh man, now we're going to be getting into all these different type of theories. But essentially what M theory is the multiverse, and we understand this from watching different comic book movies, especially the DC universe has different types of universes that they bring out and say, oh well, this Flash or Superman is part of this universe, this one is part of this universe. So you can kind of keep an understanding that, well, in this universe, Superman was raised by Jonathan Martha Kent, so he became American Superman. But in Red Sun version of Superman, he was raised by Soviet parents and became part of the Soviet Superman. So that's kind of how we think of this. This is really, really big and really taught amongst people. Even if some scientists believe in kind of the theory of you're the brain in the vat, you're a part of the grand experiment, there's still multiverse theories that they bring up. So people like Neil deGrasse Tyson sometimes posits this. Even some of our own, William Lane Craig is a huge proponent of the multiverse theory.
So it used to be, we would call these things different dimensions, right?
Sure, yeah.
This would be a different dimension where everything is changed, nothing is the same as it is in our dimension, and then there's another dimension where maybe I was, I don't know, a giant or something like that. Yeah.
So but dimension seems to exist within the universe. You're just not seeing the 15th dimension. You kind of think of Star Trek. You go into a slipstream and you're in the 4th dimension without having to worry about space, so that way you could travel faster. But this posits things like, what if the Nazis won World War II, or what if instead of for breakfast today you had the bowl of cereal rather than the bagel? So any little choice or permutation of a universe has existed. So essentially,
or is existing.
Yeah, at the same time,
right?
In both time and also event. So you can kind of think about how many number of is this, and this is really important to Hawking's theory, is that there's almost an infinite number, because how many choices did you make, or how many permutations could you have made just getting out of bed in the morning? I mean, thousands, millions. You know, do I brush my teeth? Do I get out of bed by using my hands to do a handstand? I mean, there's all sorts of different worlds. That
So and some of this comes from there's certain variants of quantum theories that say that every choice we make causes another universe to appear.
Yeah.
And so obviously there are billions of people, there are billions of choices, and so there are many of these universes. So that's what some variants of quantum physics argue. And so this is kind of a spilling over from some of those types of ideas.
Although then you have to ask the question, well, how come there isn't a universe where you can travel to other universes? How come? I always say, how come there's not a universe that people have maliciously made a weapon to destroy other universes? So why are we in existence if that's one of the possible permutations? So that seems to be more of a critique on it, but I'm not going to do that here too much. But
we'll let Mitch do it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll let the author get his
have his day.
$23 for it.
That's right.
So again, he goes on to say the first question: why is there something rather than nothing? Hawking says that there is such thing as something. Something we're trying to account for is not what we expected. It's not the universe that we kind of come to know and love. It's like all these different ones. In fact, he puts a number on it of 10 to the 500th power. So 10 times 10, 500 times, which is an insane number that you don't even need a name for it because it's too large.
Yeah, he says that it's more than all the atoms in the known universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So essentially, we just call this the multiverse, and Hawking says that the universe, collectively called the multiverse, originated naturally. So how did it come about? It came about naturally from physical laws. So physical laws existed, and then all of a sudden, boom, multiverse with all their different permutations, the ability to survive, the ability to have life, all these things just came about from physical laws. So why is there something rather than nothing? Physical laws. It gives us a reason, not really why, but a reason. So the quest can also be thought of as the search for the multiverse cause, which has brought everything into existence. He goes on to say these laws tell us that quantum fluctuations lead to creation of tiny universes out of nothing. And so we know that the origin of the universe was a quantum event. So how did it happen? Nothing came into existence, and this quantum event also had physical laws, and all of a sudden now we exist, and there's life in this one. Why? Because spontaneous creation is the reason that there is something rather than nothing. So why do we exist? Why is there life? Well, because spontaneous creation happened, or spontaneous. It's not a big C creation. It's just life happened spontaneously. So it just happened. So there you go. There's your explanation.
Yeah, it just spontaneously came into existence.
Multiverse is, let's see, what are our reasons? Why is there something rather than nothing? Because of the physical laws caused it to happen. Why do we exist? Because there are multiverses, and so we just happen to exist in one of those universes where we exist. And why this particular set of laws rather than others? Because spontaneous creation happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, I'm glad we got that one out of the way. It's solved. Philosophy is dead. Long live physics.
Yeah, so, the next kind of thing he wants us to work through is then, how exactly does it explain this multiverse theory here? Explain the vast complexity and order that we see around us, right? This is kind of really the life question, right?
This is the
why do we exist,
right?
Our universe, he says, isn't just something that can be thrown together willy-nilly.
Not like the other things.
Right. So how does the universe explain the existence of us, right? Complex life.
Why do we exist?
Yeah. How does the universe help us to, the second question, why do we exist? So he notes that in previous chapters, there were two issues regarding the existence of life. Number one, the origin of life, right? Where did it come from initially? How did it come about? What was the source of it? We might say the origin of it. Where did it start? And then secondly, the evolution of life. So once you have it, once life has come, now the issue is how did it get to where it is today, right?
And Stokes had the issue with both those. The first one, the origin, well, we don't really know. We have this kind of thinking that it rained on the rocks for millions of years, lightning struck it, boom, amino acids formed together, you had simple cells as a part of that, and everything like that.
Yeah, so we weren't sure. But we did know that, how we got to where we are today. Right. That was the evolutionary process, right? He says there's allegedly an entire natural explanation for the evolution of life from its initial form to the extravagance that we see now, right? And so in any case, he says the issue is, what about now the origin is what he's dealing with, right? He says, notice these natural processes, even the biological ones, will be ultimately explained by the laws of physics, as you mentioned, right?
They have to be.
Right. Yeah. Since the laws of physics govern all of the fundamental entities of which the universe is made. So if we keep, this is called kind of a reductionism, right? If we keep going back and trying to explain further and going back, we eventually just get to the laws of physics that allow us to explain everything, right? So we can everything can reduce to physical processes, and physical processes then we know the laws of physics will allow us to explain various physical processes. So he says the general answer to the second question, why do we exist, is this: because the laws of physics makes the universe biologically friendly. There it is. So we get back to physics, right? Physics explains everything.
F equals MA means that I'm able to exist. I am able to have a personality distinct from everybody else's, hopefully. Yeah. And I'm able to reproduce, I'm able to survive, I'm able to have kidney transplants. Right. All those things is because force equals mass times acceleration.
That's right. Or at least one of the laws of physics, right? Right. Sure. All right. And so notice he says, to be sure this doesn't get to the heart of the matter, namely how we might account for the fact that our universe landed in the Goldilocks zone where we have now.
Yeah, we have an abundance of riches of
life.
That's
right. Yeah. But he says the multiverse is an all-natural way to tame the staggering improbabilities associated with the universe coming to life. Out of so many universes, one of them, he says, was sure to produce life from dead matter.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you can have the dead rise from the living rise from the non-living. And so, obviously it
is that like happened. Zombies or something?
Well, it could be. Or, I mean, if you wanted to say maybe there was a man who wasn't quite all man who, may have been dead and rose from the dead. That's outside the realm of possibility. But here, raining on the rocks millions of years, that goo gets struck by lightning, and there you have life teeming from it.
All right, and then from then that allows us.
Yeah, that one's fine.
Yeah.
But here, at least it covers the issue that Stokes had with the previous chapter, is that it seems like evolution is hard to fathom because of how many different factors are involved in it. So we always said that the 1-to-1 ratio is a sure thing. So 1-to-1 equals 1. That means it happens. There's your probability scale. So if you have almost an infinite number of things that could go wrong or need to go right, that's almost an infinity symbol underneath as your denominator, and so that is practically zero. So it doesn't seem like it should happen. Here, instead of the 1 over infinity, you just make infinity number of universes. We just so happen to live in that, so it's infinity over infinity equals 1. There's your probability. So the probability of it happening, according to physics, is 1. So at least it deals with the objection of why is there life? Well, it seems like it would have to happen if you have.
Yeah, you got so many chances. So many chances. One of them has to be,
We are just privileged enough to be in the universe where all the things have gone right. The Goldilocks.
So just think about it. If there's zillions and zillions of banks and you begin to go into each one of the banks, eventually you'll find a bank with an account with your name on it that has $10 million.
It's entirely possible. Yeah.
Right? I mean, clearly, one of them had to do it. He says the only question left is why this particular set of laws and not others, right? Why are these physical laws? And he says we've already answered it. The proliferation of the universe makes the universes and their laws a dime a dozen, greatly increasing the odds that at least some universe or other will have the particular laws that allow for us, our biological
isn't
existence.
This kind of the teleological argumentation is just it's going to happen because it just everything happened perfectly and it just so happens this is the case. It seems like it's that argumentation.
Right. So if the 10 to the 500 universes aren't enough, he says, then there may be more, right? Every logically possible world. And perhaps there are infinitely many of these. If so, and here you go, right? Thanks, Mitch. All we need to stack the odds ever in our favor is the assumption that our universe is logically possible. So once we say our universe is logically possible because there are, all of these multi-universes, then eventually we are here and here we are, right?
It seems, too, like if you have logically impossible worlds, that there could be a universe where the car is in the garage and not in the garage at the same time, and that's okay. Like there seems to be a universe that should exist. I mean, if you have a Goldilocks zone universe where the physics work perfectly, the chemical makeup is perfect, and then you drill down to the planetary and you have life stemming from non-living matter to living matter, why not have a universe where
things don't work perfectly?
Up is down, left is right, cats are dogs. You can have a square circle. Yeah. I mean, you just need a
anything is possible.
10 to the 600th power universe.
Right. Yeah. So in the same way that we get billions of years of evolution, and therefore we can any kind of life is possible, we can get bazillions of universes, and therefore the beginning of everything and how we got here is possible, right? So it's just a numbers game, one would suggest, but this way it has to do with existence. Everything coming into existence as opposed to, the various species of life, right? But either way, it's a numbers game, right? You get enough numbers going on your side, and then anything is possible.
So Hawkins destroyed philosophy, but not mathematics. So
they're
still okay.
Of course, he used philosophy to destroy philosophy, but he didn't know that he was doing it. Yeah, so it's not his fault.